Single parenting isn't easy. We understand. Most parents don't plan to go it alone, but you can still make the most of this journey for your children and yourself. In fact, if you and your family are on that journey, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Single Parent Advocate community and to our podcast. And here are your hosts, single parent founder Stacy Poitras, and broadcast journalist, single dad and friend, Daryl Moody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome again. Thank you for joining us. I am Daryl Moody, joining you from my home studios here in Orlando, Florida. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Single Parent Advocate. Stacy is the Single Parent Advocate. She's there in the beautiful SPA studios in Dallas. Thank you to the folks there at VentureX Louisville, the Realm at Castle Hills. And you'll notice our friend of the show, Brett Sutcliffe, is here again. He's got his Twitch TV channel, Rack TV. Brent has become a popular guest and a friend of the show, so thank you both for joining us. Stacy, bring us right up to date. You've got exciting developments to share about Single Parent Advocate and an effort that you have been working to bring to fruition, and that's helping these families get what they need in terms of back to school supplies. And this is more than just backpacks full of pencils and pens and protectors and all that stuff. You actually got these guys some laptops.
Yep. I'm super duper excited and grateful. We have an area church, Gateway Church, that donated all of these Chromebooks that arrived on my front doorstep today. I was so excited. And so we're going to be able to get people to take these Chromebooks to each of our families who requested them, almost 100% of the families. So we're going to at least make sure that we get one Chromebook to every address that there's a child. So even if we can't fulfill multiple Chromebooks in each household, we'll at least be able to give each household one. And so super, super huge thanks to Gateway Church and to all of our volunteers who are going to go out and take these to our families. These families already requested them. So, it was a dream of mine to be able to do this, and so I'm just so pumped that we can.
And we talked about the need for it, but fill us in on the logistics. How did you get teamed up with this church? How did they pay for the laptops? How did they all get sent to your house? Give us the nuts and bolts.
Nuts and bolts were at the beginning of COVID. I was in South Dallas working with another charity to do a Mother's Day parade. None of us really knew that Mother's Day was going to be ruined at the beginning of 2020. Mother's Day is usually the first Sunday in May. And so I had to cancel Mother's Day and work with this other organization. So while I was there loading in, the gentleman who was leading that nonprofit asked me to step into a conference call. Now, it wasn't one of those situations where I looked nice. No, load-in days are hair on top of the head, no makeup, sweaty, April, sometimes hot in Texas, sometimes not, and schlepping boxes, right? And so I was like, no, I can't. He goes, come on, and grabbed me by the elbow, and in I went to this Zoom call. I had no idea what was getting ready to happen. Well, on the other end of the Zoom was a young man, minister from Gateway Church Dallas, who said that they would like to help single parents, and he needed to find a single parent group to align with. So over the last year and a half, 2 years since COVID began, can you believe it's turning the corner? And it's a year and a half now.
I know it only feels like 7 years.
And so Gateway helped us along the beginning of COVID, reach out to dads. After that, they helped us reach out to school, back to school and students right at the beginning of COVID. We have been trying to set together intentionally, working together to really scale our services in alignment so that we can really get, more of a regional reach. And so it's been a relationship that has been really organic, just feels real natural that, God's all in the middle of it and we all are looking to work together. So this year they couldn't host back to school because their campus was being remodeled. And so Matthew 6 Ministries stepped in and helped us with all the back to schools and helping us with the sorting and back to school supplies. And then Gateway came alongside and proudly said, we'd like to buy those computers. And so the two ministries, Matthew 6 and Gateway, and then our host church in Carrollton, Faith for Life Church, all came together to make it possible to do this. And I'm so happy and excited for the families, and can't wait.
It's just tremendous.
Hopefully I'll have some videos of some of the kids to share. But right now, I did put our back to school video on YouTube so everybody can see us at Faith for Life Church with Matthew 6 Ministries. And I'm not as good of a video editor as Eric is. This is my work. Just know, for the fans out there, Eric did not put that back to school video together. It was me. But it was wonderful. And so this is just an add-on to it. The next thing we're trying to do is to get donations for the parents that are in college and figure out a way to get some clothing to these kids. But it looks like, our community's on the move, and we'll be able to do that hopefully by Christmas.
That's incredible. Now, have you been able to connect with any of your single parent advocate families to tell them that these Chromebooks are coming?
They don't know as of today, but they're going to know. So do not, by the time this program actually comes on the air, or makes it available on all the podcasting channels, I think they'll know by then. So this program should go live on Labor Day. And on Labor Day, it won't be a secret anymore. But today, for our taping day, they don't know yet.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's exciting.
I know. So I'm so excited. Those moms
Who are you going to tell first? Do you have a family that that needs the Chromebook the most? And are you going to, kind of tell them first?
Oh, no, they're all precious. They're all precious. What we're going to do is we're going to reach out to the families who actually appeared at the back to school drive, like they registered and appeared. And then the families that had a change of plans for whatever reason, we're going to make them second. And then every household, like I said, each household will get one. And then if there's the ability to do more, we will.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Brent, catch us up to speed with you, man. We haven't had you on the show in a couple of weeks. How's Rack TV doing? What are you up to?
Oh, we're doing great. We actually, and we were talking about this before the show, I keep the SPA link on the bottom of my page when I'm streaming. And so folks, and I've been working on getting in front of more people and getting reviews and getting more of that exposure. And I had someone just the other night come in, they were checking stuff out. They said, "Hey, I was looking at your merch, but I decided to donate to your charity instead." And I was like, that's super cool. And that's the whole goal. You do your special events, you talk about what the vision is, and then you get those folks that'll come in at random and they're like, "Hey, this was awesome. I went and did it." And I'm like, it's always that much better to me when you're not asking for it and somebody just does it. And that's always just really, really cool to me. And that means more than anything. It
is really hard to always be on the ask, and right. So huge thanks to the guys at Rack TV. That's awesome.
But outside of that, just been busy with real life and work and family and all that grind, man. Just, it's good to be busy.
It's good to have the kids back in school. Kind of feels like life is returning to quote unquote normal. I mean, whatever normal is for you, but it's, I know in my household, we're really getting settled into the back to school routine, and it feels great. College football's back in a couple of weeks. Very exciting.
Yeah, no, really happy to have my kiddo back in school. I can have a bit more structure around the workday, get caught up with new and other projects, reconnect with the office a little bit, the office projects, reconnect with my team in that regard. And it's been great getting that kid back in school. It's been fantastic. A lot of paperwork he keeps bringing me, but I've got an 8th grader, so there you go.
Is he enjoying it, Brent?
Oh yeah, he wanted to go back to school. He couldn't wait because
Awesome.
He liked seeing his friends and his girlfriend, we call it. We've never met her. He barely talks about her. He's around me when he's not at school. So I'm like, I keep telling him, and this is probably a discussion you have another podcast, but I'm like, dude, if this is something you really want, one, you got to make sure you got a steady income coming through because you've got to take care of her. 2, you've got to meet her parents. That's very important. 3, at some point, we're going to have to meet her. And so I was like, this isn't really legit to me until you figure those things out. But you're welcome to be friends and talk and all that. Is kind of the conversation I've had with him. And some of the other real life stuff I tell him, he gets embarrassed. Dad, don't talk about that. I got to tell you sometime, kiddo.
That stuff terrifies me, Brent, but I'm in no hurry to get there. My oldest just started the 3rd grade and my youngest is in the 1st grade. So, boyfriends and girlfriends and that sort of thing, we're still a ways away. Thank God.
Enjoy the ride, but don't blink is my advice.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I feel like they were babies yesterday, and it's all happening entirely too fast.
Right.
So let's jump into our subject matter for today's show. And again, I'm going to draw from my personal life for this. And Stacy, thankfully, as our resident voice of reason, has done some research into this topic. But it's basically competing with your co-parent. I know that in my house, I find myself doing this without even thinking about it. But for me, it's more of a, my ex-wife comes from a wealthy family and has a fairly high level job, making, a fair amount of more money than I did. So, it's like whenever I take my kids to her house, I feel like the entire American Girl product line is on full display in her living room. And I'm sorry, but if you've ever priced out American Girl dolls and stuff, that's not cheap. So for me, and I feel like I don't have the resources to compete with that. I can't spend thousands of dollars on toys, but what I can give my kids is experiences and memories and things like that you can't buy in a store. So and it's probably not healthy for me to think of it this way, but I just my approach to my relationship with my kids is, look, I can't give you the stuff that your mom gives you, but your mom also isn't going to take you kids on a bike ride, whereas I do. I take my kids to the beach. I take my kids to the park. We're very active in our neighborhood. We're always out and about doing stuff, and they don't get that sort of thing from my ex-wife. So, perfect example. A few weeks ago, the girls were at my house and they wanted to FaceTime with their mom, and they called her. And she just so happened to be at downtown Disney in Disney World. And she just so happened to be there with her best friend from college. And she just so happened to be spending the weekend there. And so my kids were upset because they're like, well, we want to go to Disney World. And I go, well, has your mom ever taken you to Disney World? No, mom's never taken us to Disney World. Whereas I've taken the kids to the theme parks a couple of times. It's usually more hassle than it's worth. So I certainly understand why my ex-wife would want to go to Disney with her best friend from college. But to me, those experiences are meant to be shared with your kids. So, lo and behold, I'm going to take my kids to Universal Studios this weekend, and we're going to spend the day at a theme park. Because to me, I feel like my kids need to get that. So, Stacy, you did some research into this subject. Where am I going wrong?
Well, I thought I'd ask you, first of all, do you feel like she's trying to compete with you, or do you feel like it's just a situation that happens to exist because of what's going on? Are you trying to compete with her, or are you just having daddy guilt?
This may just be my own cynicism, but I truly believe my ex-wife is going to try to buy my kids affection. I mean, my 8-year-old already has her own iPhone. Granted, there are a lot of strings attached to that iPhone. She's only allowed to use it at her mom's house when her mom tells her she can use it. And apparently she can only use it to text me every now and then. That being said, I'm not going to go out and buy my daughter. I'm not going to buy her an iPhone to use here at the house. I mean, I might get her a track phone so you can use in the case of an emergency. But I mean, does my kid need her own smartphone? I don't think so. Of course, I'm also the same guy that bought her an iPad a couple of weeks ago. So who am I?
I was going to say, between the two of you, she's fixing to score.
Wow.
Well, and obviously, the bad side of that is you can get kids to take advantage of that sort of situation. They go, well, mom got me this. Well, dad got me this. And the next thing you know, they're playing you against each other.
Well, that's exactly what this article kind of started talking about that I found. It was on mensdivorce.com for anybody who wants to look it up. It's called The Dangers of Competitive Parenting. Now, I think a lot of us think that, I think it's neat that you bring it up as a father, because I think usually moms feel it's kind of the shoe being on the other foot, that they can't keep up. They do more of the, time and treasure. They give time, and then the dad or the male co-parent gives more of the treasure. But, if you look at love languages, and that was not a part of the article, the words of affirmation, right, for children and for people we care about are really important. Certainly time and touch, and then gifts and service, right? And so there's a lot of different ways to make your child feel loved and vice versa, right? So, I think, just hearing you, I feel like you are doing a lot more of the quality time, it sounds like, and she's doing a lot more of the gifts, and, as long as it's in balance, and it's not in a spirit of one-upping each other all the time.
Well, I'm not trying to one-up her, because as far as I'm concerned, it's apples and oranges. But I still feel this need to give my kids as much as I can give them. And, even though it's not the latest American Girl doll, well, it's okay. Well, let's go do this, or let's go, let's go check this out.
There was a store when my son was young called Build-A-Bear, and everybody needed to go get Build-A-Bear. And it's so funny, is now that Chris has moved to Hawaii, guess where that Build-A-Bear lives now? He lives with me. Mm-hmm. And he has a heart, and the heart, you can't get rid of the Build-A-Bear, even when your kids grow, so hopefully that Build-A-Bear will be my grandchild someday, but I was thinking about, that as I read through this article, and I'll dive into it, but I was like, I felt that, even though in my situation, Chris's dad was absent. So I wasn't competing against him. And I thought, when we all decided to talk about competitive co-parenting, what was I competing against myself, or was I, like we've talked about before, was I having mommy guilt because, he was absent? Was I trying to make up for things? And then ultimately, he didn't ever have to contribute or do anything, So I feel like he was really on the losing end of that stick, because we have a great son, But anyway, if you were to look at that as a competition, if you're out there and you're raising your child on your own, I think that this competitive parenting can kind of come up when we try to keep up with trends, and we try to keep making up for the guilt that we have in our hearts. So when we talk about this, competitive parenting, I think can show up whether it's co-parent, competing against one another, or in my case, I was competing against expectations, competing against comparisons, competing against what I wanted my son to have, because I felt guilty that, he only had one parent, so hopefully that'll be something that everybody can kind of roll with. I don't know, Brent, before we dig in, do you have anything to add?
Well, a couple things, one, I've got a friend of mine where I can understand where Daryl's coming from, and my buddy's married. So, but this sort of thing can still happen when you're married too. You can have that competitive parenting, and that a lot of times I think unfortunately can lead to divorce issues. You hope it doesn't, but I mean, it's that need for your kid to love you more than the other person. And it shouldn't have to be that way. There should be a way to balance it out. My wife and she works a lot, and I can be more flexible with what I do. So like during the summer, he's with me a lot because I can be flexible about that. So if I have to run an errand nearby, I mean, we can work out something where I drop him off at my wife's shop or something, or if with school back in session, like she's picking him up today while I'm here doing this, things like that. You work things out. But there's other situations where, like with my buddy, where his wife has just gone a lot on business, where he has to pick it up. And that can be, I can understand how that would be hard, because you feel like you have to do a lot of it while she's out of town doing other things. So it's kind of that's when it becomes like what you're, Stacey, saying, where you feel like you're carrying most of the burden, and it just gets tough, because you got to you got to be both the mom and the dad at times. And that's hard because, for one thing, it's hard for men to multitask. So having to be both mom and dad is incredibly difficult. And I feel for you, Daryl, having 2 daughters down the road, on how you're going to work with a lot of that, without having your wife around.
Well, and to your point, there's a natural bond there between the girls, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I don't have that. I can't compete with that. Not that I should feel like I have to, but
right. Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. But I love one thing I love about your co-parenting situation is kind of a little bit of the difference there, like what Stacey was saying with the different love languages. Disagree or agree with it, I'll leave that to each person its own. But you're trying to give them the memories and the things, and that's always been important to me, because I remember sitting down with my dad at Denny's over a milkshake, and my dad's like, "How do you remember that?" I don't. I was like, "I just do. It was a great day. I was a kid. You took me for a flipping milkshake. I mean, at that age, that was amazing." And so I've tried to do a lot of that for my son too. Like I took him to Universal in California the last time we visited my folks a couple of years back, and he still remembers that and wants to go sometime again, even though he had a droopy attitude half the time we were there. We were talking just the other day. He's like, "I want to go back to that again sometime." Okay. It's out of the blue, but they're going to remember that. They're going to remember growing up. They're going to remember the time that my dad took us to Universal and we had a great day. Maybe little things you won't even remember, but memories, I think, are so important, with your kids, and having those moments to remember. And as far as the competitive, that article about competitive parenting, that's rough stuff, because that does happen, because you want your kids to like you. And when you get mad at the other parent, and my wife and I went through this ordeal a couple of years back, where we were just fighting a lot, and inadvertently, whether we liked it or not, looking back, I can see that we were in the middle of that, trying to keep our son's attention. And it was a little bit of that. And I regret some of the things I said and did at that time. Fortunately, we don't struggle with that so much now. And we're being a much better team in regards to parenting. But competitive parenting, if you're not careful, can cause a lot of toxicity with your kids, because they pick up on more than we realize.
Well, it even says in this article, guys, it says, I'm looking at my notes. So it says it's harmful to the child's development, and that children can find themselves stuck in between. And I thought about, okay, this is, and we're going to go forward with this, so bear with me. But I thought about my Chihuahua, Mercutio. Mercutio is like, he's that dog that, when you put your head on the pillow, he's already there. Like, he wants to be the dog you pick. And then he does the same thing with my husband. He'll go and snuggle him, and he goes back and forth. And he's getting treats. He's getting all the snuggles. He's getting everything he wants. And he's playing both sides of the coin. And even my other Chihuahua, his name's Romeo. It's Romeo Mercutio. And Romeo, he, at night, if I close, the door for whatever reason, he's like, no, I need to roam around the house. I want to find out, if anybody's got any treats that doesn't know I've already been fed, And so even the fur babies that we have, kind of learn how to play both sides of the coin, and they do that because we've taught them. So feeling in between, though, they said, is not a great place for a child, because they feel like they can control the parent's behavior. And so whenever you give your children the keys to your behavior or your co-parent's behavior, it can turn upside down fast. They said that it's natural for kids after parents have divorced, especially if it was an ugly divorce, for them to feel a constant need for comfort. And it's also very normal for a parent to feel like they owe their child something because of everything that had happened, especially joyful experiences. And I had that feeling. I remember I always told my son, I want you to have happy memories. I want you to leave and grow up and look back on a house full and a life full of happy memories. And so that comes from guilt. It comes from love too, but if it's taken over the top, it can come from guilt. But what he said was, it gets into where you get hooked is when you start keeping score. Like if you are keeping score, like, okay, she brought 2 new American Girl dolls, and so I'm going to take them to Universal Studios. And she took them to downtown Disney, so I'm going to take them, somewhere else. Or I'm going to do something else. She bought them an iPad, so I'm going to buy them an iPhone, or vice versa. And they try to outdo each other. And the reason why people try to outdo each other and they get hooked like that is because they really haven't forgiven. And they really still have ill feelings for their co-parent, and they haven't established clear communicative home where parents can be in it together. They stress that, when you co-parent, even as a divorced couple or a separated couple, you're really still better together. And when you do co-parent together and set the muckety-muck aside, what happens is your child ends up growing up in a more stable and secure environment, and they actually do better versus learning some fake lessons, You want to hear the fake lessons?
Well, I was just going to admit that I think I'm guilty of not forgiving my co-parent. I think there's a lot that I haven't forgiven her for, and that's just going to take time. But maybe that plays into why I feel the need to try and compete. But anyway.
Well, and being aware, is the first step. That's why we talk about this stuff. So he said that basically, if we incentivize our children's affection in any way, or we try to alienate the other parent by competing with them, what happens is our child learns that they can win by creating guilt and competition. Because if the two co-parents aren't communicating, actually, there's no way for them to verify that whatever the child is saying is true. So a child, can actually leverage that, much like Romeo and Mercutio. Dad doesn't know that I just got a treat, so I'm just going to go tell him I'm starving, and then he's going to get another treat. So there's no way to verify what's true. And so the kids learn a false lesson that they can get away with manipulation like that. And so, just having some kind of communication with your co-parents really important. I think you're going to love the next one, Daryl. You know what it's called? Disneyland Parenting.
Oh, I saw that. I've got the same article here.
Yeah.
Disneyland. Tell me about that.
And so basically, this is kind of reminding me about what your family's having, where your ex is doing a lot of gifts, and but you're doing a lot of the what did you call yourself the other day when we were talking about the drill sergeant, that you're going around making sure there's structure, getting all the...
Well, I call myself Sergeant Slaughter, which I am when I'm trying to get the kids out the door. But I also don't want to fall into the pitfall of being the fun parent, because being the fun parent's all fine and good until the kids don't respect you, because you're the one that is always there for the fun and games,
but never there for the tough stuff.
Which is why I always keep Sergeant Slaughter at the ready.
That makes sense.
We got to work on that name. I don't know. I don't want to
Well,
be.
it's funny. It's funny. When before we had Elise, when we were still married, we talked about what kind of parents are you going to be, and we used to joke how like I was going to be the softie and she was going to be the disciplinarian. Where really, I think it's kind of the opposite, because I'm pretty strict on my kids when it comes to their behavior and that sort of thing. And I feel like of course, I'm not there, but it just seems to me like they get away with a lot more with her. But I don't know.
Well, in that kind of situation where somebody's the disciplinarian and somebody else is the fun parent, the competition gets spurred on. And what the kids learn, it says, is that they equate gifts with love. And so,
well, to Brent's point, like, you're talking about love languages. I remember going through divorce counseling with my ex-wife. Gifts were her number one love language, whereas quality time is my number one love language. So, and I think that kind of speaks to what we're giving our kids as gifts. She gives them stuff. I try to give them experiences, which totally speaks to our love languages.
Well, and everybody's a mixture of all the love languages. You just have certain dominant ones, But if money equals love,
for me.
Yeah. But money isn't love. Like, there's all kinds of love. And so if you just decide, okay, I'm going to just compete with gifts and compete with this, then that they're suggesting anyway that what the child learns, and it's not a good lesson, it's not a 100% truthful lesson, that money is love.
Well, I guess in that respect, because like I said, I don't have the resources she does, so I can't afford to attempt to keep up, when it comes to American Girl dolls. But, I load my kids up in the car and we go to the beach. We spend a day at the beach. My ex-wife has never taken the kids to the beach.
That's good. It sounds like you guys are balancing, even though you're still on the teeter-totter of healing,
Well, I've been through a lot of therapy, and I've talked about this a lot. And I still firmly believe that even though my ex-wife and I are very different people, we never should have been married. I still believe that if each of us gives our kids the best of what we can give them to our strengths, I think our kids are going to be okay. Hopefully they get my personality and her organizational skills, that sort of thing.
That was a dig.
The woman can organize. That's all I'm saying. She's a planner by trade. So, I just, hopefully I give the kids the best that I can give them. She gives the best that she can give them. And by the time they make it to college, they're going to have plenty on their tool belt to handle whatever life tosses at them.
All right.
I was telling my son for quite a while, when my wife and I were really going through some struggles, I was saying, look, I just want to make it very clear that I am not pitting your way in any way against your mom. I want you to understand that. And he was like, yeah, I get it, Dad. I get it. I told him that several times because I never wanted him to even think that it was something that had to do with him. I never wanted him to even think if it got really bad that it was his fault in any way. And I'd never, ever want to be in that position where there's that thought, he's just trying to buy him off, or he's trying to pit him against so-and-so, and stay away from a lot of that just because it's toxic.
Oh, it is. And there's a lot of parental alienation groups out there, where people get into alienating the other parent. It gets out of control beyond competition, and it turns into parental alienation sometimes if it gets, way off to the right or left.
And to be fair, I'm not giving my kids these things and saying, well, your mom gave you this, so I'm going to give you this. Even though that's in the back of my mind, you don't position it that way when you're presenting it to the kids. You know what I mean? So they don't know why we're going to go to Universal Studios on Saturday. I'm just going to surprise them with it.
But secretly, you're going, I got this.
Oh, secretly, I'm like, yeah, Kelly, you take them to Disney. I dare you. She's never taken them to stay in a hotel room. She takes them to her mom's, to her parents' house, and to her sister's house. So as long as she's got somebody around her to handle the kids, she's on vacation too. I think back to, it's college football season. I'm a big sports fan. I love taking my kids to games. And I can remember when I was married, just having these huge fights with my ex-wife where I'm like, let's take the kids and go to a game. And of course, her whole thing was, well, I want to have fun. And I'm sorry, but when you're trying to raise your kids around something, it's not about whether or not you have fun. It's about whether or not you can create those memories with your kids, establish those routines so that when they're, 15, 16 and they're in high school, like they know how to tailgate for a college football game. They know what they're doing because they were brought up around. You know why? Because I suffered through all those miserable games, when they were 4 and 5, trying to teach these kids how to watch football. But my
You're so serious about it.
This is a passionate thing for me. Like,
okay.
I grew up watching sports with my dad. I'm a big sports fan because of my dad. I want to share that with my kids. I want my kids to grow up loving sports for the same reason I do, because I can't watch an Atlanta Braves game without thinking about my dad. I can't watch a Gator game without thinking about my dad. I want my kids to feel the same way. So that's why that's a really big thing to me.
I gotcha. Well, that's a whole nother topic there, Daryl.
Well, thankfully we
me
do one of
and
these
Brent
every
are
week,
both, we're both giving you the nod. I think we're seeing our next topic.
Well, post Labor Day.
But for now, we're not talking about, passing down our own hobbies and stuff and forcing them on our children. We're talking about competitive parenting, and so, but I know what you're talking about because I love to sing and dance, and
Absolutely.
I had Chris, he's in musical theater. He loved it, but that's the whole nother chapter of the SPA podcast for sure.
And we'll dive into that topic for sure.
Yeah, I can tell. Hopefully it'll be during football season and I can wear my Dallas Cowboys while you're wearing your Atlanta Braves. Was that the right team? Anyway.
Well, you're
it's a bad look for you, Stacy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cowboys are a bad look for anyone. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud?
You gave me a bad look? Okay, good.
You guys are in Texas. You can't say things like that.
What do you mean?
Like the Dallas Cowboys are they're a big deal in Texas.
No. I said I'll wear my Dallas Cowboys outfit while you wear your Atlanta Braves outfit. But then I was thinking, well, it's not the Braves that play football, is it? They play baseball.
They play baseball.
Yeah.
But growing up, my dad, you could go to college if you wanted to. Like whatever big decisions you have in your life, those are your decisions to make. But you will root for the Florida Gators and you will root for the Atlanta Braves. Like those were the two, those are the lines in the sand that my old man drew.
Okay, but not the Atlanta Falcons. See, I remembered, Brent.
No. I mean, I'm not really a big NFL fan. I mean, we want to talk about sports. I'm a much bigger college football fan. So I watch college football.
Well, I'll just leave it here. I'll leave it here because we're so digressing. I really feel like this needs to be, I want to be your daughter's advocates here, that they should have some freedom in what hobbies and interests they pursue. Just something for you to think about.
I take them to ballet. They're into ballet. I take them and expose them to that sort of stuff too. That's
Tiptoe through the tulips.
What's the Gator chant, Daryl?
Oh, there's a billion of them. Which one?
Billion of them? I'm just making sure you're teaching.
We chomp. I mean, I'm not kidding you. We have the Pride of the Sunshine Band. I have a CD that I burned years ago. It's all the marching band songs, and my kids request it. They go, "Daddy, I want to listen to Gator music," and I go, "All right."
I got you.
Go Gators! And we do it in the car. We're cheering in the car, driving to school. It's ridiculous.
Awesome. Those are good memories.
But my kids already love watching football with me.
But if they grow up and they say, "Dad, we want to go to the mall," if we still have malls when they grow up, don't you there's going to be a little softening maybe around this area, perhaps.
We'll get into that.
I don't know. I think Daryl's raising a golden wife down the road. I mean, he's already
exactly. A couple of young men,
20
years from now, are going to say, "My God, you did such an amazing job. She can change her own tire. She knows what a spread offense looks like." You just wait.
All right. Next topic. Original topic. We were talking about Disneyland parenting. Right. Where we teach our kids money is equal to love, right? Competition is really driven by indulgences, right? Like iPads, iPhones, American Girl dolls, going to Universal, like all these different things. They just kind of keep going. But really, if one parent is given all of the opportunity to be the giver of gifts, and they don't have any custodial or duties, and the other parent has all of the duties and not able to give any of the fun, then that creates a Disneyland dynamic, which can teach kids money and love are synonymous. And so we want to make sure that we don't put ourselves and our families into those traps, divorced or not. And then the next thing the article talked about is discipline issues, which I know, Daryl, you have a hot button for discipline. So I think you'll like what the guy says. I'm not sure. So let me just like dig it in. He says basically it's not like, discipline issues have to be really severe. It can be like something like when you compete on discipline issues, it can be like the child can go to your ex and say, oh, I just want to go to bed at 10 o'clock when I'm at your house, Mom. Dad makes me go to bed at 8. That's just really too early for me. And then you kind of have like the bedtime comparison. Or another discipline issue people can compete about is like, okay, I don't want to come home and just immediately start doing homework. I don't play video games, and I know they Brent, you like that. I don't play video games for a little while and then get back to my homework, which that can play on emotions, right, of the parents. And basically the kid learns that they can get what they want by just playing on the parents' emotions to guilt them or manipulate them into compromising on different boundaries. And we talked about last week what important boundaries are, right? But the kids will push it if they know they can and stretch the boundaries in order to get their way. I don't know if you've had any of that, but that was the third thing that he talked about in the article.
Well, thankfully, my ex-wife and I have actually collaborated on discipline issues before. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago. My youngest one had gotten in trouble at summer camp. And so we were taking Elise to her golf camp, and then the girls and I were going to go get dinner afterwards. And I texted her mom, between leaving the golf course and going to dinner, I said, meet us at this restaurant. And she popped up out of nowhere, sat down right next to me. And I'm not kidding you, Stacy, it was the first and only time I have ever seen my 6-year-old actually fearful. And she said, she started crying. She said, I'm scared. Like, she knew that in that moment, wow, Mom and Dad are working together on this. This is serious. So, for as much as I feel like I have to compete with my ex-wife, at least we are, for the most part, on the same page when it comes to discipline. You talked about the evening routine. From what I hear, hers is very similar to mine, especially in the timing. We try to get them in bed between 8 and 9, get them their 10 hours of sleep before they wake up. So at least on discipline issues, we're kind of on the same page for the most part.
Well, basically what the guy said was that, when you do collaborate, versus allowing your children to kind of learn these false lessons, like, I can manipulate my way into getting my way, or I can, love is money, or what was the other one I mentioned a minute ago? It was basically I can I can say I can earn affection and I can alienate someone else, and get away with lying. He says if you really are able to set aside all of the tit for tat in your personal relationship, maybe you still harbor pain or resentment, but maybe you have a proverbial parking lot for that when it comes to co-parenting your kids, and you don't create a competition. Talked about, that a child should never be thrust into a position of influencing an adult's behavior. Not your behavior, not the grandparents' behavior, not your ex's behavior. If it's a child or, they're a little person and they need to know that, they need to be taken care of.
Well, you're almost going back to the subject matter from last week, being triggered. I mean, you talk about don't let the kids dictate your behavior.
Right.
That's kind of one of the struggles that I have all the time, is like, I don't have to get so upset with them when they act out. I don't have to react. Now they're regulating my behavior, which is obviously what we want.
That means that we need to go make some Daryl puppets.
Little finger puppets.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about this. Well, tell me why. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Okay. And then I thought this was interesting too. He brought up boundaries and limits are part of parenting. And we just talked about it too, about boundaries and how, we create a sandbox, and once that sandbox is covered, we, expand it, right? So if we as parents quit having boundaries that keep our kids safe and in structured environments, and we blow the boundaries out of the water competing with one another, it's not safe. It's not the right decision, and it puts the child and the children in the driver's seat. And so at the end of the article, he just talks about, co-parents are stronger together. They need to be communicative. They need to be non-competitive. They need to provide stable homes that really allow their kids to grow and thrive. And if you end up, in this dysfunctional pattern, it's always easy to, hit the reset button. Maybe not with your differences, but with how you co-parent. Like maybe you separate those two and commit to creating an environment that's structured, safe, and a place where your kids can grow and thrive. You would never put a 3-year-old in a driver's seat of a car. So Brent, do you have any input?
What I find hilarious is kids get very sneaky when they want to be, and they play the same tricks that we played when they were their age. And I find that hilarious because supposedly we don't know about those games at all. But like we played and I told my kid that before. I said, you need to understand that you play the same games that I played with my parents. They played it with their parents, and so on and so on and so on. I was like, it ain't nothing new, dude.
My dad, when I was a kid, he used to yell at us when we would go to the store, okay, here's your $10, buy whatever you want. And my dad used to he would call them blister packs. Okay. And think about the G.I. Joe action figure, the cardboard backing, and then the plastic around the guy. Well, my dad called those blister packs, and he used to just rail against them. Why do you buy those blister pack toys? It's crap. Why do you do it? So Elisa's 8th birthday was in June. My mom gave her a $50 gift card. The idea behind the gift card was great. She can go to Target and get some, a new case or something for the iPad that I got her for her birthday. So, comes time for her to spend her gift card, and she buys all these like slime and kinetic sand and 3 or 4 different things got thrown away before they even came into the house. And I'm running around screaming like, why did you waste your money on these $2 and $3 garbage toys? And I was like, wow, that sounds just like the blister pack speech I heard a million times when I was a kid. So, it all comes full circle. It really does.
Yep, it sure does. Well, I hope this little article is something that helps everybody. I thought it was really, really insightful. It was pretty simple, straightforward, and I thought we could all help Daryl through his moments of competition.
I thought that was great. Like really, really great discussion. Really thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I don't want to take it the wrong way and alienate my ex-wife and that sort of thing. But like, I can't help it. I feel like I gotta give them, the best I can.
Well,
you want to adopt me for the weekend, Daryl?
Yeah, I want to go to
Come to Universal with us on Saturday?
Yeah.
Universal is fun. I love it. I've never been to the one in Florida because when we just do it driving out to California because my folks live a couple hours north. So we'll go for the day and then drive up, and it's a lot pretty cost effective for the trip. But I love all the shows. That's what I love about it. And we saw the Waterworld one last time, and it was really good. But obviously that's we can chat about what we love and not love another day. But it's I hope you guys have a great time. That's fun.
Thank you. I think we will.
All right, you guys. Well, thanks for a great talk. And I guess we'll just see you guys next week.
SingleParentAdvocate.org.
Yep. North Texas Giving Day. Choose SPA. Love you guys.
Go Braves. Go Gators.
Oh my gosh. Go Cowboys. That's the only thing we want to hear. Go Rangers.